This is the Angels Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Los Angeles Angels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, Halo Nation. Hello, Halo hopefuls, and welcome back to the latest edition of the Locked On Angels Postcast, coming at you live, as always, even if it's 3 hours later than expected, right here after every single Angels game on the Locked On Angels YouTube channel and after the fact, both on the channel and wherever you get the Locked On Angels audio podcast feed. If you don't know who I am, what's going on, everybody? I'm Gavin Carlson, former credentialed journalist in the LA area, was covering UCLA football, men's basketball, and very proud to say today, got my start covering UCLA women's basketball. Shout out to that big Elite Eight win today for our Bruins. But enough about the Bruins. Our Angels, despite a near 3-hour rain delay, are going to leave Chicago dry and victorious with a series win after a stunning 3-2 victory here on Sunday. It started in the morning. It ends at almost 4:30 thanks to that near 3-hour rain delay. But Kyren Paris, the man of the hour, comes out in the top of the 8th inning with a solo home run, and that was enough, despite another abysmal offensive performance for the Angels, to somehow, some way, be 2-1 after this really type of series. Before we jump into this one, quick shout out, as always, to everybody in here. Again, just for those who are still getting familiar with the format of the show, nothing's changing with the Super Halo Bros. They'll be back tomorrow with their Monday through Friday daily show, the best in the business. But I will be here live like I am right now after every single Angels game to talk about this game with you. So continue to show love, continue to join me in the comments. Lots of comments here. Leave a like, all that good stuff. But yes, quick shout out to everybody in here. Quick shout out to the sponsor of today's show. It is FanDuel. And with all that being said, we have some new segments, and I'm not going to waste any time. I was going to say, I'm going to talk a little bit. No. We can't waste any time. Let's get right to it.
This is the Locked On Player of the Game.
It's the player of the game, and it's also
time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
I don't care if it was one swing. Kyren Paris is the player of the game, and that home run is the turning point. I mean, obviously, we had to wait nearly 3 hours to get to the bottom of the 7th inning. And so really, again, like I did yesterday, I'm going to have a little caveat to the turning point and say what would have been the turning point. It was that 7th inning, because not only in the top of the 7th are the Angels this close to scoring a run if Jorge Soler's double is not a ground rule double. Not the top of the 7th. That was the top of the 6th inning. My bad. But that ground rule double by Jorge Soler in the top of the 6th, that would have been the turning point if the Angels went on to lose this game, because a run was taken off the board there, right? Taylor Ward would have scored that run if Jorge Soler's line drive in the center field does not bounce over the wall. So you don't score a run there. And then in the bottom of the 7th inning, so a little over an inning later, the White Sox get a runner on second. And then we have the huge rain delay. Ben Joyce comes out, able to survive that. We'll talk about that later. But that whole, series of events there could have easily been the turning point in this game. But no, instead it is. And it took me a while to get there. But the turning point was Kyren Paris with that huge solo shot to lead off the top of the 8th inning. They brought in a new pitcher, Cam Boozer. They brought in a lefty, which really surprised me. I get it. After a rain delay, you're just going to bring in whoever feels warm and ready to go. But you bring in a lefty with Kyren Paris coming up, with Taylor Ward coming up after him. Didn't really make any sense to me. And surely enough, Paris wastes no time. First pitch gets a down and in fastball. Clearly, he was sitting first pitch fastball, because that's not an easy one to quickly turn around. And yet he was able to be right on top of it. 95-mile-an-hour fastball down and in, but he hits it 397 feet, a no-doubter to left field to give the Angels a 3-2 lead. And that was enough. Thank goodness that was enough, because outside of that, the Angels offense did absolutely nothing. Obviously, they score 2 runs in the first inning, but both are unearned thanks to a leadoff error. From there, of course, the Angels did do some work to score those runs, and so the offense deserves some credit. Nolan Schanuel with the single, and then Mike Trout with the single. So back-to-back singles to load the bases. Jorge Soler then does his job with a sac fly, and Yohan Moncada almost grounded into a double play, able to beat it out and score another run. So it's 2-0 right away after the first inning. But again, how many times are we going to say it? the opposing starting pitcher continues to be a no-name, right? You're playing the White Sox, and yet the no-name looks like a Cy Young candidate outside of one inning. I mean, innings 2 through 7, the Angels offense does absolutely nothing. Very concerning. Once again, had a couple guys have rough outings. Once again, Yoan Moncada did have that near double play. That would have completed a really bad game for him, where he also had 2 strikeouts. d'Arnaud 0 for 3. He had a rough day behind the plate as well. Tim Anderson, surprise, 0 for 3 with the strikeout. But the moral of the story is, when the pitching is as good as it's been for the Angels so far this season, you can somehow have a combined 3 earned runs as an offense in 3 games, and yet you leave 2-1. That's unbelievable. And so certainly we're going to talk about Jack Kochanowicz. Some can make the argument he should have been the player of the game, and certainly valid. But the crazy thing about being an Angels pitcher is even if you do what Kochanowicz did, which was only allowed 2 runs, that's not enough for you to win the game unless something heroic from a hitter happens like it did from Kyren Paris. And so that's why I'm going to give that award to Kyren Paris, and that's certainly the turning point. But outside of Kyren Paris' home run, once again, the offense, very questionable. Got to give Taylor Ward his credit. I know I was critical last year about him being the starting pitcher, being the leadoff hitter. But again, another game where he not only had 1 hit in the run, obviously, he got on with the error in the first inning, but he also had a hit, and he also had another hard hit ball that was right at somebody. Both teams actually hit the ball pretty hard and didn't get rewarded. I mean, in that first inning for Jack Kochanowicz, where he ends up giving up 2 runs, it could have been a lot more because everything the White Sox were swinging at was going to the warning track. I mean, Nick Matone or Maton, who knows how you say his name, who knows who he is, but he leads off the bottom of the first with the solo shot, and then it's Luis Robert Jr. with a single, and then it's Andrew Vaughn who hits one deep to center field, 381 feet on a line drive. Benintendi hit one 394 feet. The at-bat before that. So, I mean, Jack Kochanowicz had a great start, but it could have been really bad. I mean, obviously, the first inning ends with Matt Thaiss having another great game against his former team with an RBI single to make it 2-2. But again, there's about 2 other line drives or deep fly balls from Benintendi and Vaughn that easily could have left the yard. It could have been 3-2, 4-2 after the first inning. So the Angels fortunate that it's just a tie game. From there, neither offense does anything despite there being a lot of hard hit balls. And once again, the Angels, like yesterday, actually getting guys on base early in innings. I mean, the second inning, Luis Rengifo walks, but there's a double play from Kyren Paris. The third inning, nothing, but the fourth inning, a 1-out walk for Yoan Moncada, but then Travis d'Arnaud grounds into a double play, right? Double plays everywhere. We talked about the 6th, where if Soler's double doesn't go over the wall, it's probably a run scored by Shanuel. Tim Anderson ends the 7th with a strikeout. Surprise, surprise there. And then the 9th, fittingly, another double play, right? d'Arnaud gets hit by a pitch, but Luis Rengifo grounds into a double play. So again, a lot of double plays for the Angels, encouraging in the sense that there was a lot more hard hit balls than certainly in the opening game of the season and yesterday as well. Just 6 hits, but the Angels able to get on base a couple different ways. Obviously, the error, they got walked twice as well, and then d'Arnaud got hit by a pitch. So that cancels out when you have all the double plays, but still, there was a little bit of life on the bases for the Angels. A lot of hit and runs again from Ron Washington. He really loves to do that. No bone-scratching or head-scratching, bone-headed decisions from him, but the one thing we will talk about after the break is the thoughts on Ben Joyce being that pitcher after the rain delay. As someone said here, Sports Talk, where is it? Sports Talk with Jose. So Jose, he said the turning point was the rain delay, and certainly that could be the argument. It was kind of around that time when things were starting to get dicey for both teams, right? The Angels almost scored in the 6th. The White Sox about to score in the 7th. There's the delay. And then when Ben Joyce comes back, that ends up surviving, or the Angels ends up surviving and not giving up a run there. So certainly when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about Ben Joyce and the decision to go with him. I didn't really love it fully, to be honest, but it worked out. And so you got to give Ron Washington his credit there. We'll talk about that. We'll talk a little bit more about Jack Kochanowicz because he certainly deserves the praise after a really impressive outing. And we'll talk about Kenley Jansen, really resilient pitching from all 3 Angels pitchers. We'll talk about that after our first break here on the Locked On Angels Postcast. Now, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I certainly have had a lot invested both on the men's and women's sides with March Madness. In addition to being in, all the bracket competitions, it's nice to throw a little extra money on your team that you want to win that game, or if you have a head-to-head matchup with a friend who went to a school, that you like to do that as well. So I always love to pick the teams I'm rooting for, just have a little $5, $10 on them there. And I also love to have a couple, lines on some underdogs as well, for sure. So with tournament games happening almost every day, there's always something exciting to bet on. And the FanDuel app, it's really simple to use. It makes it really easy to make a last minute bet. And when I win, I get paid instantly, no waiting around. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. With what? With FanDuel. Back here live with the Locked On Angels Postcast. Again, it's Angels 3, White Sox 2. The Angels somehow, some way, end this series with a series win. They have a winning record for the first time in what feels like our entire lifetime. The Angels are 2-1 despite scoring 3 combined earned runs in the first 3 games of the season. And right away, we're having some debates about Ron Washington here, because I see guys like a Curran Man saying, I'm still not impressed with Ron Washington as a manager, doesn't help the play on the field at all. But then we have guys like Antonius in here saying, y'all won't like Wash no matter what he does. Wash is doing a great job. I think that's Mihoko there saying, we will see how Ron manages the team on the upcoming Cardinals games. Certainly not happy with Ron Washington in terms of the opening day lineup. Not happy with how he handled Ryan Johnson. Things a little bit better yesterday. Things a little bit better again today. The one thing I was kind of skeptical on was his decision to go with Ben Joyce. I get it. He's our setup guy, and it's ironic. Last year, we were complaining that Ben Joyce wasn't being put in enough high leverage, big situations like a situation he came in today with a runner on second with 2 outs. Not 2 outs, but with a runner on second in a full count. But because of that unique situation, you got to wait almost 3 hours. It's a 3-2 count. The first pitch that the pitcher that comes in is going to make has to be a perfect pitch, right? A 3-2 pitch. Sure, you have an open base at first, but you likely don't want to walk to start the bottom of the 7th after the delay. And so I didn't really want to see Ben Joyce come in. I thought kind of like we saw, kind of exactly what happened. I'm like, Ben Joyce, as much as I love him, feels like 3-2 pitch. He's just going to close his eyes and throw a fastball as hard as he can, right? And you see what happens. He comes in, throws it, and it wasn't even that hard for his standards. Only 99. It's high and in. A pretty easy take. Instantly, there's now runners on first and second. And then the very next pitch is a wild, reckless fastball in the dirt. D'Arnaud wasn't able to stop it. It looked like his glove ripped, and that's part of the reason he wasn't able to stop it. But still, in 2 pitches, right? In 2 pitches, you go from having a runner on second with 1 out to second and third with 1 out, right? So that's unfortunately part of the Ben Joyce experience. Is it took just 2 pitches for you to walk a guy and then have them both advance without the White Sox having to do anything. When you're playing a team like the White Sox, who is as terrible as they are, you just want to make them earn the runs, right? Make them earn the runs. So I didn't really love Ben Joyce just because of that unique situation with it being such a delay and with you coming in on a full count. Would have liked to see maybe a different pitcher in there, but then the Ben Joyce experience, you get the full experience, luckily, because despite that, he's able to get out of it, right? Second and third with 1 out, and he immediately gets Brooks Baldwin to fly out to Taylor Ward on really just a pop-up there. And then he gets Lenin Sosa to pop out. A pretty impressive play by Luis Rengifo, I will say. In foul territory, we know the winds were crazy, the weather, and Shanuel was not going to catch that ball. So Rengifo comes all the way from second and gets to the ball before Shanuel does in foul territory there to help Ben Joyce get out of it. A really rough game, I thought, from Brooks Baldwin for the White Sox, just because he was in a couple important moments. He had that pop-up there with second and third and 1 out. You got to have a sac fly there if you're the White Sox, right? And then he does end the game in a huge high leverage spot, first and second, 2 out or 1 out against Kenley Jansen, and he grounds into a double play. So rough game for him. We are certainly fortunate and grateful for it, though. Thanks, Brooks Baldwin. And as we just referenced there, Kenley Jansen gets the job done in the 9th, but he had an eventful 9th the same way Ben Joyce had an eventful 7th inning. He comes in and instantly you can tell he doesn't have his stuff. He gives up a double to Andrew Vaughn on a 1-0 cutter right down the middle. And then from there, he's pretty reckless. He walks Matt Dice on just 5 pitches, really none of them close outside of a swing and a miss. None of them were even remotely close to the strike zone other than that. But he does get Miguel Vargas to pop out on a first pitch cutter, and then he gets Brooks Baldwin to ground out on a 2-1 cutter. The cutter there that Baldwin grounds into the double play on right down the middle. The cutter that Vargas pops up on the first pitch, not as inside as he probably would have wanted it to be. So really, Kenley Jansen did not have his stuff today, and yet he's able to pick up another save as he continues his road to 500 and climbing up the all-time leaderboard there. But we will take it. We will take it. As Nathan says here, glad Dice didn't beat us. I mean, he had a heck of a game and a pretty solid series for him, right? Matt Dice goes 2 for 3. He's hitting 1.4 OPS early on after playing the Angels, right? Love to see that, of course. But nice to see Ben Joyce do his job. Nice to see Burke do his job as well. Didn't even talk about him, but he's able to come in there. And Zephyr as well, just got 1 out. Walked a guy and gave up a hit. Wasn't perfect, certainly. But then we have to close the show by talking briefly about Jack Kochanowicz, because 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 runs, both of them earned. He had 4 strikeouts and he gave up a home run. But, I mean, how much of that was in the first inning, right? Leadoff home run to Nick Matone on a 1-1 pitch there. He throws a sinker right down the middle and it's crushed. We know how much Kochanowicz loves the sinker. And the surprising thing about this first inning was 2 things. One, that his sinker was not going down, and 2, that he wasn't forcing ground balls. One of the highest ground ball forcers of all starting pitchers last season. And I mean, then again, right after I say it, the 2 things kind of go hand in hand. His sinker wasn't breaking, hence he didn't get his usual ground balls, right? It makes sense there, right? So that he hangs the sinker, you could say hangs the sinker and gives up the home run. And then what happens with Luis Robert on the next at bat? First pitch sinker, not as low as he wants it. Hits a hard hit ball. Benintendi hits a deep fly ball on what? A fastball, right? Not a sinker, because the sinker wasn't breaking as much as he wanted. The pitch before that was a sinker right down the middle. And then Andrew Vaughn, guess what he does? He crushes a fastball, right? So the first 4 batters are 2 of them get hard hits off of sinkers that don't break, and then 2 of them get hard hits off of fastballs because there wasn't a lot of confidence in the sinker there. And then what does Matt Dice do on that second RBI? He hits a really hard 106 exit velo line drive on a fastball, right? So Kochanowicz, he's a sinker pitcher, but after the first 2 guys, he kind of gave up on it, and then there's more hard hit balls on his fastball after that. But luckily for the Angels and for him, he was able to settle in. I wouldn't say the sinker was suddenly on, but he goes 1, 2, 3 in the second, 1, 2, 3 in the third, 1, 2, 3 in the fourth, goes technically 1, 2, 3 in the fifth because he gets a double play. The 6th, 1, 2, 3. So really until that 7th inning, which was not Kochanowicz, it was Zephyr. Kochanowicz was really cruising. And I think I saw someone in here, WF here saying, why take him out after 6 innings? This will not age well. I'm venting, sorry, but Anderson is not a major league player. Yeah, he just started going after everybody. But the question there is, why take Kochanowicz out? The same way the question yesterday was, why take Soriano out so early? Meanwhile, 3 days ago for the regular season opener, you don't take Ryan Johnson out. Yes, still some questionable decisions from Wash. At the end of the day, we're 2-1 and we'll take it. At the end of the day, I still would like to see some tweaks to the lineup. You do have to give Nolan Shano his credit today. Multiple hits, despite people like myself calling for him to be taken out of the 2-hole. And really, the top 4 hitters for the Angels, pretty impressive. Ward goes 1 for 4, Shanuel 2 for 4, Trout 1 for 4, and Soler 1 for 3 with that double and also the sac fly. So you get a combined 5 hits from your first 4 hitters. The problem is you only get 1 other hit from the bottom 5, but fortunately that 1 other hit was the deciding swing, a home run from Kyren Paris, who once again is your player of the game and also had the turning point in this one. But Nathan says, Meatball Anderson on the mound tomorrow. Be nice to Tyler Anderson. I think he's still solid. I think he's a pretty good fourth pitcher, right? Last year, he had to be our ace. That wasn't ideal. But if he can be your 4th pitcher, that's actually a pretty decent rotation. And as the current man says right here, love the Angels' 3 starters so far. I mean, how can you not? Kikuchi, even in the loss, was pretty solid. You know he'll be better. And then the young sinker ball throwers that we are confident are going to be part of this future rotation in Jose Soriano and Jack Kochanowicz. They get it done. They get us back-to-back wins. And now we head to St. Louis with the winning record. We'll learn a lot more about this team in that series against the Cardinals. Obviously, a better opponent. Obviously, better pitching, better hitting, better everything. But another road series, not at the Big A yet. And so, again, if the Angels can somehow escape with a series win, it's absolutely a fantastic start to the season. But we'll see. A much better opponent. Not that the Cardinals are world beaters or anything. They're not the Yankees or Dodgers, for crying out loud. But still, definitely a tougher opponent, and you're going to learn a lot more about this team based on how they play against the Cardinals and not the lowly Chicago White Sox. But shout out to everybody in here, because I know this postcast was scheduled for like 1:30. That's when it went live yesterday. But with that nearly 3-hour rain delay, we don't start till 4:30. So shout out to everybody in here for, sticking with me, obviously sticking with the team. Worked out kind of well for me, I'll be honest. I was watching the Angels game and the UCLA Women's Basketball Elite Eight game at the same time. I was nervous about when they were going to end. Then we get this rain delay. I get to easily watch the end of the game. My Bruins pick up the win, and now had plenty of time to watch the Angels and watch Kyren Paris get the Angels their victory. So shout out to everybody in here for sticking with it. And another fun one. A lot of comments in here. Some people I know are going to have comments like this. What about Trout? What's up with him? Yeah, not the best performance from him, but he did have a scorcher that was a line out. So you see 1 for 4 with a strikeout and you think, but if you suddenly see 2 for 4 with a single and a double, then you're suddenly saying it's a great game from Mike Trout, right? So context needed for everything. He had a hard hit ball that wasn't able to get down. Taylor Ward had a hard hit ball, and even the Angels as a whole, right? Context needed for the performance. You see 3 runs, you think terrible, but then you see a decent amount of hits and guys being on base, and you think, oh, decent. But then you see 4 ground balls and you think terrible. You see 2 runs in the first, you think great, but then you see they're both unearned and you go, right? So context is needed with this sport. Baseball is a unique sport, but at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is that the Angels are 2-1 through 3 games, and we will certainly take that. So shout out to everybody in here. As always, leave a like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, which I don't know how you haven't already based on how good the Super Halo Bros are. So certainly most of the subscribers are going to be because of them. But shout out to everybody in here. I got people in here quickly asking me stuff about Chelsea. Someone says the Pulisic jersey is fire. Someone else said, how long have I been a Chelsea fan? For a while. Not good times right now. But yes, one day we'll give a room tour of this place, right? Because some people last year were asking me if I was Brazilian because of that jersey. I'm not, but I met the Brazilian national team at UCLA, got that signed. This jersey, a bunch of Chelsea signatures. This jersey, a signed Pulisic jersey. That jersey, a signed Kevin Durant jersey. All for meeting these people in person, all at UCLA's campus. So definitely was nice to take advantage of that. But yes, shout out to everybody. That was a little more background about me for the people who don't know. And yes, have a great rest of your Sunday. Excited. The Angels get the win. We'll see you back here tomorrow night after a Cardinals series opener. Shout out to the Halos. Shout out to Kyren Paris. Shout out to the Halo Bros. Watch their pod tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow as well. Take care, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.